when everything feels delayed, blocked, and surrounded by resistance. But God says, this is the season where barriers are breaking. What I have planned for you can no longer be hidden, delayed, or destroyed by fear, doubt, or opposition. The struggle was never meant to stop your destiny. It was preparing your strength for what is coming next. People may have underestimated you, ignored your pain, or spoken against your future, but my power is greater than every obstacle standing in your way. What I started in your life will move forward with unstoppable force, and no person, no failure, and no darkness will be able to cancel it anymore. For a long time, you have been asking God why everything seemed delayed. You prayed, believed, waited, and held onto faith even when nothing around you made sense. There were nights when you questioned whether your breakthrough would ever come, whether your season of pain would ever change, and whether the promises placed in your heart were real. God say, yes, He saw every silent tear, every lonely battle, and every moment you kept going when you wanted to quit. The waiting season was not punishment, it was preparation. While you thought nothing was happening, God was building strength inside of you that could not be created any other way. He was teaching you endurance, wisdom, patience, and spiritual maturity so that when the blessing arrived, you would be ready to carry it. There were people who walked away because they thought your life would never change. Some judged you by your current situation and assumed your story was over. Others laughed at your dreams because they could not see what God placed inside you. But God says your delay was never your denial. What looked like a closed door was actually divine timing protecting you from stepping into things too early. If certain opportunities had happened before now, they would have broken you instead of blessing you. God was working behind the scenes, arranging people, opportunities, ninth circumstances in ways you could not understand at the time. The enemy wanted you to become tired, discouraged, and hopeless during this waiting season. The attacks against your mind were designed to make you give up right before the breakthrough. There were moments when you felt forgotten, unseen, and emotionally drained. You smiled in front of others while silently carrying heavy burdens inside. God says He never abandoned you during those difficult moments. Even when you felt alone, His hand was still guiding your steps. Every setback, disappointment, and closed door was being used to redirect you towards something greater than what you originally expected. You have survived battles that should have destroyed your peace. You kept standing through betrayal, rejection, financial pressure, emotional exhaustion, and spiritual warfare. The reason you are still here is because God placed His protection over your life. There is a purpose attached to your existence that cannot be cancelled by people, circumstances, or mistakes from your past. The waiting season may have been painful, but it produced a stronger version of you. You are no longer the same person you were when this journey began. Your faith has grown deeper. Your spirit has become stronger. Your understanding has become wiser. God says this is the moment where movement begins to happen quickly. What stayed delayed for years can suddenly shift in a short period of time. Opportunities will begin to appear where there was once silence. Favor will find you in unexpected places. The prayers you thought were ignored are still alive in the hands of God. He is able to open doors that nobody around you can shut. He is able to create miracles in situations that looked impossible. What once felt stuck is beginning to move forward because the waiting season has completed its assignment in your life. God is about to place opportunities in front of you that no human power can block. The doors He is opening are not tempo, rare chances built on luck or human approval. They are doors connected to divine purpose, and when God decides it is your time, no person, no betrayal, and no opposition can stop what He has already spoken over your life. For too long, you felt like every time you tried to move forward, something pushed you backward. You experienced rejection from people you trusted. You watched others succeed while your own path seemed delayed. There were moments when it felt like life itself was fighting against your progress. But God says those closed doors were not the final answer to your story. They were simply redirections preparing you for something greater. Some of the things you cried over were never meant to stay in your life permanently. Certain relationships ended because they could not go where God is taking you next. Certain opportunities disappeared because they were too small for the future He planned for you. Even though it hurt, God was protecting your destiny from things that would have distracted, delayed, or damaged your purpose. You may not have understood it while it was happening, but heaven was working in your favor behind the scenes. What looked like rejection was actually divine protection. What looked like failure was preparation for elevation. God says the next doors opening in your life will carry peace instead of confusion. You will no longer have to force what was never meant for you. The opportunities prepared by God will align naturally with your purpose. The right people will begin to recognize your value. The right connections will appear at the right time. Places where you were once ignored will suddenly make room for you because favor is beginning to speak louder than resistance. God is shifting situations that once seemed impossible. The same people who underestimated you will wonder how your life changed so suddenly. Do not allow fear to stop you when these new doors begin to open. Sometimes after experiencing long seasons of disappointment, people become afraid to believe again. They expect every opportunity to fail because pain trained them to prepare for rejection. But God says this season is different. The doors opening now are connected to His timing, not human effort alone. You prayed for change, and now change is arriving. You asked God for direction, and now He is leading you into places you never imagined possible. There will be moments when the blessings coming into your life feel too big to understand. You may even question whether you truly deserve them after everything you have been through. But God says you are not walking into these opportunities because of perfection. You are walking into them because of grace. The struggles you survived did not disqualify you. They prepared you. Every painful lesson taught you wisdom. Every delay taught you patience. Every battle taught you dependence on God instead of dependence on people. The enemy tried to close doors permanently in your life through discouragement, fear, and emotional exhaustion. There were times when you almost gave up completely because nothing seemed to move forward, but God kept a future waiting for you even during your darkest moments. Now the season is changing. What is your name on it will not pass you by. The doors God opens for your destiny cannot be locked by human opinion, jealousy, spiritual attacks, or past mistakes because His power is greater than every obstacle standing in front of you. As these doors begin to open, you will also start to understand why the attacks against your life became so intense. The enemy does not fight empty people without purpose. The battles you faced were connected to the calling placed over your future. Every time you tried to move forward, resistance appeared because darkness recognized the potential God placed inside of you even before you fully recognized it yourself. There were moments when the pressure became so heavy that you questioned your own strength. You wondered why problem. MS kept appearing one after another. You prayed for peace but faced conflict. You prayed for clarity but walked through confusion. God says the attacks were never proof that He abandoned you. They were proof that your purpose carries power. The enemy wanted to break your confidence through disappointment and repeated setbacks. He wanted you to believe that your mistakes were greater than God's mercy and that your failures had permanently ruined your future. There were people who spoke negatively over your life and tried to convince you that nothing good would ever happen for you. Some betrayed your trust while pretending to support you. Others secretly celebrated your struggles because they never expected you to rise again. But God says every attack sent against your purpose is about to turn into part of your testimony. The very things meant to destroy you will become evidence of God's power working through your life. The pain you survived is developing a story that will inspire others. Are people who feel hopeless right now? One day, someone will hear about the battles you overcame and realize they should not give up on themselves. The tears you cried in private were not wasted. God collected every moment of heartbreak, every prayer whispered in exhaustion, and every time you chose faith while surrounded by uncertainty. Your survival is already a miracle. Many people would have completely surrendered under the pressure you carried, but God kept breathing strength into your spirit when you felt empty. There were attacks against your mind designed to fill you with fear, anxiety, insecurity, and self-doubt. The enemy knew that if he could control your thoughts, he could delay your progress. He tried to convince you that you were unworthy, forgotten, and incapable of fulfilling your purpose. But God says your identity is not defined by what happened to you. It is defined by what he spoke over you before the struggle ever began. The attacks may have wounded you, but they did. I don't destroy the assignment attached to your life. You are still chosen. You are still called. You are still capable of becoming everything God created you to be. What once looked like defeat is beginning to transform into strength. The betrayal taught you discernment. The rejection taught you independence from human approval. The delays taught you patience and endurance. Even the painful seasons carried hidden lessons that are now preparing you for greater responsibility. God says nothing you survived will be wasted. Every battle is becoming part of the testimony He is building through your life. The people who counted you out only saw your struggle, but they could not see the spiritual strength growing inside you. They judged you by your temporary situation without realizing God was preparing a comeback they would never expect. The attacks against your purpose were intense because your future carries impact. There are lives connected to your obedience, your healing, your voice, and your breakthrough. What tried to destroy you will now become proof that God can bring light out of darkness, strength out of suffering, and victory out of battles that once seemed impossible. After everything you have survived, God says it is time to release the fear that has been holding you back from fully stepping into your destiny. Fear has followed you for too long. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of disappointment, fear of starting over, and even fear of believing again after so many painful experiences. The enemy used fear as a weapon to keep you doubting yourself and questioning the future God prepared for you. Every time an opportunity appeared, fear whispered that you were not ready. Every time you considered taking a step forward, fear reminded you of your past mistakes. God says those voices no longer have authority over your life. You were never created to live trapped inside anxiety and hesitation. God placed gifts, strength, wisdom and purpose inside you long before the battles ever started. But pain has a way of making people forget who they are. After enough disappointments, people begin expecting loss instead of expecting breakthrough. They stop dreaming boldly because disappointment trained them to protect their hearts from future pain. God says this season requires courage. The next chapter of your life cannot be entered while carrying the same fear that controlled your previous season. There were moments when fear caused you to stay silent, even though God gave you a voice. You held back your ideas, your talents, and your calling because you worried about criticism and judgment from others. You compared yourself to people around you and felt like you were not enough. But God says comparison has distracted you from recognizing your own assignment. Nobody else was created to walk your exact path. Nobody else carries your exact story, your exact purpose, or your exact spiritual calling. What God placed inside you is unique and fear about. Not be allowed to bury what heaven intended to reveal through your life. The enemy understands that a confident person walking in faith becomes dangerous to darkness. That is why so many attacks targeted your confidence and identity. The enemy wanted you to shrink yourself, hide your gifts, and remain stuck in insecurity. He wanted you to stay focused on your weaknesses instead of recognizing God's power working through your life. But God says your future will not be built on fear anymore. The same person who once doubted themselves will begin walking with boldness, wisdom, and spiritual authority. You may not feel completely ready for what is coming next, but God says readiness does not always arrive before the journey begins. Sometimes faith requires taking a step while still feeling uncertain. Moses felt unqualified. David felt overlooked. Many people chosen by God initially struggled with fear, insecurity, and doubt. But God's strength becomes visible when human weakness chooses obedience. The breakthrough waiting ahead of you is greater than the fear trying to stop you. As you move into this new season, God will begin restoring confidence that was damaged by rejection, betrayal, and emotional pain. You will slowly stop seeking constant approval from people who never understood your value. You will stop apologizing for the calling placed over your life. You will stop shrinking your dreams to fit the comfort level of others. God is teaching you to trust His voice above every negative opinion spoken against you. The opportunities coming toward your life will require courage to embrace them fully. There will be moments when fear tries to return and remind you of old failures, but God says your past no longer controls your future. You are not the same person you were during your lowest season. You have grown stronger, wiser, and more spiritually prepared through every battle you survived. The fear that once controlled your decisions is losing power because God is raising you into a season where faith will speak louder than doubt. As your confidence begins to grow and your faith becomes stronger, God says the people who once doubted you are about to witness a transformation they never expected. There were individuals who looked at your struggles and assumed your life would never change. They judged you based on your weakest moments, your failures, your delays, and the seasons where you felt broken. Some quietly laughed at your dreams because they could not see the vision God placed inside your spirit. Others dismissed your potential because your current circumstances did not match the greatness hidden within you. But God says human opinions never had the power to cancel divine favor. There were moments when their words deeply wounded you. Rejection from people you trusted created insecurity inside your heart. You began questioning your abilities because of how often others underestimated you. Some people only focused on your mistakes and read your growth. Others walked away when your journey became difficult because they expected you to fail. God says the pain caused by rejection was real, but it did not define your future. What people failed to recognize, heaven already approved. The favor of God is different from human approval because it does not depend on popularity, status, background, or perfection. God can place favor on a person who has been overlooked for years and suddenly elevate them in ways nobody can explain. One moment people ignore you, and the next moment they begin noticing the grace, wisdom, strength, and opportunities surrounding your life. God says He is preparing to reveal His goodness through your journey in a way that will leave people speechless. The same individuals who doubted your future may soon witness doors opening for you that they cannot understand. They may see your healing after expecting you to remain broken. They may see your success after assuming you would stay stuck forever. Why may watch your peace grow after knowing the battles you survived privately. God says your life is becoming evidence that His power is greater than any negative label placed over you. Do not become bitter toward the people who underestimated you. Some of them only judged you based on what they could see naturally, without understanding the spiritual process God was taking you through. Others projected their own fears and limitations onto your life because they could not imagine someone rising beyond struggle. God says your responsibility is not to seek revenge or prove yourself through pride. Your responsibility is to continue walking faithfully in the direction He is leading you. The favor coming upon your life will create opportunities that human effort alone could never produce. There will be moments when people wonder how certain doors opened for you so quickly. Some will not understand how you survived everything meant to destroy you. Others will be surprised by the peace and strength now visible in your spirit. God says His favor can shift an entire life in ways that happen suddenly after years of hidden preparation. The struggle you experienced was never meant to shame you permanently. It was building character, endurance, compassion, and wisdom inside you. One day, the very testimony people once mocked will become the story that inspires others to trust God again. Those who counted you out only saw your temporary condition, but God always saw your future. He saw the strength developing inside you while others only noticed your weakness. He saw the calling over your life while others focused on your imperfections. Now the season is changing. God is placing honor where there was once humiliation, peace where there was once confusion, and favor where there was once rejection. The people who once questioned your future are about to witness what happens when God decides to lift someone beyond every limitation and every expectation placed against them. God say, the things you lost during your painful seasons were never invisible to Him. Every opportunity that slipped away, every relationship that ended, every moment stolen through betrayal, fear, delay, or hardship has been seen by heaven. There were times when you felt like life kept taking from you faster than it gave back. You watched certain dreams fall apart in your hands. You gave your energy, loyalty, time, and love to people who did not value your heart. Some losses happened suddenly and left wounds so deep that you wondered if you would ever fully recover. God says your story did not end in loss. Restoration is becoming part of your next season. The enemy wanted your painful experiences to convince you that nothing good could ever return to your life again. After enough disappointment, people begin expecting emptiness instead of expecting blessing. They stop hoping because they fear another heartbreak. God says, do not allow past losses to close your heart to the future He is preparing for you. Not everything was taken to destroy you permanently. Some things had to leave because they could not continue into the next chapter of your destiny. Other things were lost because God was teaching you to depend on Him instead of depending completely on people or temporary situations. There are pieces of yourself you lost while surviving difficult seasons. Some people lost confidence after repeated rejection. Others lost peace because of constant stress and emotional exhaustion. Some lost joy while carrying heavy responsibilities for too long. God says restoration is not only about material blessings. He is restoring strength where weakness developed. He is restoring clarity where confusion existed. He is restoring hope where disappointment once lived. The broken parts of your heart are not beyond healing. You may have felt forgotten while watching others move ahead in life. There were moments when it seemed unfair that you prayed, worked hard, stayed faithful, and still experienced painful setbacks. Meanwhile, others appeared to receive blessings easily. God says comparison blinded you from seeing the quiet work He was still doing within your own journey. Your process was different because your assignment is different. Some blessings require deeper preparation before they can be trusted into your hands. The restoration coming into your life will not always look exactly like what was lost. Sometimes God restores by bringing something greater than the original situation you cried over. What you thought was the end may actually become the beginning of something healthier, stronger, and more aligned with your true purpose. Relationships may be restored through healing and reconciliation, while other times God restores by sending better people into your future. Financial opportunities may return in ways you never expected. Peace may return after years of emotional battles. Joy may suddenly begin growing again in areas where you once felt empty. God says, the years of struggle did not remove your value. You are not permanently damaged because of what happened to you. Pain may have changed you, but it also strengthened you. The losses taught you wisdom, discernment, patience, and resilience. You learned how to survive moments that once seemed impossible. Even during seasons where you felt abandoned, God continued protecting your life from dangers you never saw. The enemy expected your losses to make you bitter, hopeless, and spiritually defeated. Instead, God is preparing to use your restoration as proof that difficult seasons are not permanent. The same person who cried over closed doors will soon witness new opportunities opening. The same heart that once carried deep sorrow will begin feeling peace again. The same life that looked delayed and broken will begin reflecting favor, healing, and unexpected blessings because God is able to restore far beyond what human understanding can imagine after everything you have endured, God says. The breakthrough you have been praying for is no longer something distant or unreachable. The shift has already begun in the spiritual realm, even if you cannot fully see it yet with your natural eyes. For years, you carried prayers inside your heart that nobody else understood. You asked God for change while fighting silent battles behind closed doors. You cried out for direction during moments of confusion. You prayed for strength during seasons where you felt emotionally exhausted and spiritually drained. There were times when you almost stopped believing because the waiting became so heavy. But God says the prayers spoken in weakness were still heard in heaven. The enemy tried everything possible to make you surrender before this moment arrived. He attacked your confidence, your peace, your relationships, your focus, and your faith because he knew breakthrough was approaching. The closer people move toward purpose, the more intense resistance often becomes. That is why your recent battles may have felt heavier than before. The enemy hoped discouragement would stop you from continuing forward. He wanted you to become tired enough to quit praying, quit believing, and quit expecting God to move in your life. But God says your endurance through difficult seasons has positioned you for the breakthrough now unfolding. You may still be carrying scars from the battles you survived, but scars do not mean defeat. They are proof that you remained standing even when life became difficult. God says this breakthrough is not arriving because you handled every situation perfectly. It is arriving because grace carried you through moments where your own strength was not enough. Even when your faith felt weak, God remained faithful to the promises connected to your destiny. The breakthrough coming into your life is bigger than one single blessing. It is connected to transformation. God is shifting your mindset, your confidence, your relationships, your opportunities, and your soul. Spiritual strength. Areas of your life that once felt trapped will begin moving forward again. Situations that looked impossible will suddenly change direction. You will begin noticing doors opening, connections forming, ideas growing, and peace returning in ways that remind you God never forgot your name. Do not allow fear or doubt to talk you out of what God is preparing to do next. Sometimes people become so familiar with struggle that they feel uncomfortable receiving blessings. They question good opportunities because disappointment trained them to expect failure. God says this is not the season to shrink back. This is the season to move forward with faith even when you cannot see every detail clearly yet. The breakthrough you prayed for requires courage to receive it fully. There will be moments where everything changes faster than you expected. What once felt delayed for years may suddenly begin happening quickly. Conversations, opportunities, healing, restoration, and divine connections can all shift within a short period of time when God decides the season has changed. Nothing can stop what God has already declared over your future. Human opposition cannot cancel it. Spiritual attacks cannot destroy it. Past mistakes cannot permanently block it. God's purpose is stronger than every obstacle that tried to stand against your destiny. The waiting season is ending, and movement is beginning. The pain did not destroy you. The delays did not disqualify you. The battles did not erase the calling over your life. God says your breakthrough is becoming unstoppable because the time for hiding, surviving, and barely holding on is over. A new season is rising where strength replaces fear, favor replaces rejection, peace replaces confusion, and victory begins speaking louder than every struggle you once carried.